We're not even in the room together, and I think I know at least 3 things about you. You're the parent of a teen or young adult who's struggled a lot, and you love that person very, very much. And you do just about anything to help them. The second thing I know about you is that you made a very, very difficult decision recently when you placed your young adult or your teen in a treatment program. My guess is that it was probably the low point of your life. And I know that because I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of families that have told me about their journey. And when they get to this point where they're talking about what led to their teen or young adult going into treatment, they say, usually with tears in their eyes, they say, "This was the hardest thing I've ever had to do." The third thing I know about you is that it was so painful, so difficult, that you've made a commitment in your mind that you never want to re-experience that again. You never want to go back there again. And for those reasons, I'm so glad you're here. Let me tell you a little bit about my story. I went to college to get my degree in marriage and family therapy. My goal was to help families. I wanted to strengthen families. And I didn't want to just do therapy. I wanted to see real change happen. And that's always been my mission and my passion, is to see real change happen in families. Later on, I helped found a wilderness treatment program. And I absolutely loved this setting, working with teens in that setting, because it seemed like every single week, when you're talking about real change and you want that to happen, you go out there as a therapist once a week, and every week you go back out there, you'd look in their eyes and you could see that they'd made a huge amount of progress. And the clarity in their eyes, the countenance, their smile, all of those things could tell you. Also their openness. And so I loved that experience. What I soon found out, though, was that it was very difficult for them to translate what they had learned in this wilderness setting back into the real world. And so most of the time, the teens that were in our program, they would go from our program onto a therapeutic boarding school. And for a while, I felt like, okay, we're doing our part. We're getting them going. And somebody else is going to pick it up, and they're going to take it from there. But then I remember the first time I heard that one of the students I'd worked with, who had gone on to this next level of care, was struggling after all of that. And I remember thinking to myself, why isn't this working? But the real crisis for me came when I had a young man that I worked with in our wilderness program, and he came from the Northwest. He came in the middle of the winter here in Utah, so we had tons of snow on the ground. And this young man demonstrated a level of engagement that I have really hardly ever seen before. The first week, though, he wasn't engaged. In fact, he was angry. He'd been transported to the program, and he refused to see me as his therapist. But by the second week, when I drove up to the campsite, I could tell there was a completely different feel in the camp. There was this kind of carefree, relaxed, fun atmosphere. And so I knew, even without asking the staff, that he was doing better. And so I made my way through the snow up to the area where he was camping. And I came to the clearing, and he had made a complete living room suite out of snow. Well, that began an incredible therapeutic relationship with this young man. And I saw him grow leaps and bounds, and I really saw him as the epitome of what you would want every student to be out in the wilderness. He actually became a major leader in our program, did a lot of good for the other students. So let's fast forward a little bit. He went on to a therapeutic boarding school for a year, and he did great there as well. But when it came time for him to come home, I received a phone call from his mother, and she was crying. This was the last thing I expected, because this is a family that was so committed to the process. And they were trying to do everything the way we'd ask, the traditional kinds of solutions we had aimed at the problem in the past. But it wasn't working. So I asked the mother if I could get out to their home. I had this belief that because of the special relationship I had with this young man, I thought if I could just look him in the eye and say, what's going on, I felt like I could bring him back around and help him get back on track again. And so I caught the next plane I could, and I flew out to their home. When I got there, he had locked himself in his bedroom and was refusing to come out and speak with me or his parents that day. That was a very, very difficult day for me because I felt responsible. So this became a huge crisis for me in my career. I mean, think about it. This boy had been to wilderness therapy intensively. He'd been to a therapeutic boarding school for a year. The parents were doing traditional outpatient therapy. They were basically doing everything we kind of threw at them and kind of said, let's try all these traditional kinds of things to help you be successful. And it just wasn't enough. And the reality is that in way too many cases, we were seeing relapses. And it turned out that that wasn't enough, or that wasn't enough of the right thing. At the very time I'm going through this career crisis, I'm married, I've got a couple of little kids, and my wife finds out that she's got breast cancer. And so I'm feeling that I need to do something about this major missing piece in the continuum of care. And my family's going through this crisis of its own. But there was something that happened that just kind of sparked in me. It was this feeling that this is my job. This is what I need to do. And so we made that big leap and started Homeward Bound at that time. So that's where I was at. And I had to decide now, how do I go from here? And obviously when you're starting something brand new that's really never been done before, you have to start somewhere. And so what we did is we started to look at all the outcome research and tried to identify the key factors that make the biggest difference in long-term success. We wanted to make sure that was really embedded in our model. And so that's what we did. Since that time, we have been working on this for literally 12 years now to refine the model, to literally achieve the mission that we talked about, where not just we're able to help a few families, but we want to help hundreds and thousands of families be able to successfully navigate this really difficult transition from this highly structured setting back to home again, and to do that safely. There's like an abyss right there, and we want to help people cross over to the other side and be able to move forward into the future. And we have been able to do that. As I sit here, I have two emotions. One emotion is concern. I know where you're at. Your son or daughter is getting close to the time when they're going to come home again. And what's facing you, I understand from working with so many other families, is not going to be easy. You're going to go through some really difficult times, and some times that if you do it well, you'll be successful. If you don't do it well, it would be easy to go back to where you were before. But at the same time as I feel this concern, I also feel excitement. The reason I feel that is you are here right now. You're literally like this close from being able to have access to the answers and to the process and to the model, and everything we've done over all of this time is right here waiting for you. And I know that if you tap into the principles and all of those things that we have for you, you will have better outcomes. There is no doubt in my mind. So please, take a look around the website. Read the parent letters. Look and see what it is that we have to offer. And then please give us a call so we can give you all the particulars. We'll tell you how it works, exactly the stages of the process, and what you can expect. So give us a call and let us give you some help. I wish you all the success and happiness possible at this time of transition.